Luis Carlos Galán was more than a politician, he was a visionary. A man who spoke with fire in his voice and conviction in his heart. Born in 1943, Galán emerged as one of Colombia's brightest leaders in the 1970s and 1980s. By the mid-1980s, Colombia was in chaos. Drug cartels, led by Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel, had turned the nation into a battlefield. Violence was a daily reality, assassinations, bombings, kidnappings, and corruption at the highest levels. In this darkness, Galán stood out. He spoke about reform, justice, and building a Colombia free from narco influence. His charisma drew massive crowds. Too many. He was destined to become president. To the cartels, he was a threat that had to be eliminated. By the 1980s, Colombia's cocaine trade had become one of the most profitable criminal enterprises in history. The Medellin cartel, led by Pablo Escobar, was exporting billions of dollars worth of cocaine into the United States. Money flowed everywhere, into politics, into law enforcement, into communities. The cartels didn't just bribe, they bought loyalty. They intimidated with bullets when money wasn't enough. The result was a narco state, where political decisions were influenced by the very criminals Galán wanted to destroy. Galán founded the new liberalism movement, separating himself from corrupt traditional politics. His speeches electrified Colombians, promising a new era of transparency and justice. But he had enemies. He spoke openly about extraditing cartel leaders to the United States, Escobar's greatest fear. He criticized corrupt politicians who secretly partnered with the cartels, and he rallied against violence, making him a beacon of hope and a marked man. By 1989, Escobar's Medellin cartel unleashed a campaign of terror. Judges, journalists, police chiefs, and presidential candidates were targeted. Escobar wanted total control, and Galán was his ultimate obstacle. Intelligence reports warned Galán that his life was in danger, but Galán refused to hide. He said, "If death comes before my time, it is welcome, for it comes in the defense of a just cause." Those words would prove prophetic. On a warm evening in Socha, a town near Bogota, Galán prepared to speak at a campaign rally. Thousands gathered in anticipation. The atmosphere was electric. Galán, surrounded by supporters and bodyguards, stepped onto the stage. As he began his speech, gunfire erupted. Assassins sprayed the stage with bullets. Chaos spread through the crowd. Galán collapsed, fatally wounded. He was rushed to a hospital, but died shortly after. Colombia's brightest hope was silenced at just 45 years old. The nation erupted in grief. Colombians poured into the streets, demanding justice. Newspapers across the globe carried headlines, "Presidential candidate assassinated." But alongside the sorrow was rage. The people blamed the cartels. They blamed the politicians who had allowed corruption to fester, and they demanded answers. Who ordered the killing? Who pulled the trigger? And who betrayed Galán? Investigations revealed a tangled web of conspirators. The Medellin cartel financed the operation. Hitmen from paramilitary networks carried it out. But the plot extended deeper, into Colombian politics itself. High-ranking politicians, police commanders, and even Galán's own security detail were implicated. Some of those tasked with protecting him had instead betrayed him. It was a chilling reminder of how deep cartel influence ran in Colombian society. For decades, trials dragged on. Some gunmen were convicted, others vanished. Politicians suspected of involvement faced investigations, but many escaped justice. Pablo Escobar himself would die in a rooftop shootout in 1993, but the wounds left by Galán's murder never healed. Galán's assassination showed the world that narcos were willing to kill democracy itself to preserve their empire. Though he was killed, Galán's dream lived on. His death inspired Colombians to keep fighting corruption. His son, Juan Manuel Galán, followed in his footsteps, becoming a senator and keeping his father's ideals alive. Galán is remembered not as a victim, but as a symbol of courage. His speeches are still quoted today. His assassination became a turning point in Colombia's war against narco-terrorism. More than 30 years later, the assassination of Luis Carlos Galán remains one of the darkest chapters in Colombian history. It reminds us that the fight between democracy and organized crime is ongoing. Galán's story is not just about a man who wanted to be president. It's about the cost of hope in a land ruled by fear. His murder was meant to silence him, but instead, it made his voice immortal.